of general society if like we'd had these debates and what's it called, statements of what we're actually doing to try and tackle the problems that we face, so people know that we are consciously trying to like fix a lot of the problems that we've got and trying to be prosperous, so people know. All right, informants now. How does that work? Because the way I look at informants is like they've got a license to commit crimes and come amongst people as long as they feed in information.
Well, no, they're not supposed to have a license to commit crime. I mean, if they commit crime, they need to be dealt with like everybody else. Yes, I'm fully aware, and of course, a lot of it has been made public, that some of these informants go down this particular road and this is what happens. They're not supposed to. And if they do it, they're supposed to be dealt with like everybody else.
And why should I obey the law in the first place?
Why?
Why should I obey the law?
Well, let's put it this way. If you don't obey the law and you break it, there are consequences. If it's an arrestable offense and it's a law that will get you convicted at court, you get a criminal record, that can have an enormous effect. Some countries want to allow you in their country if you've got a criminal record. For instance, certain pop stars who've been convicted of drug offenses can't get into certain countries. You apply for certain jobs, people ask you for a check on yourselves and produce that. And if they see a conviction there, they say, no, they're not taking you in. So it can have a knock-on effect in terms of employment, in terms of travel, like that. And so my advice to people, as much as it's as far as possible, try not to pick up a criminal record. Try and stay away from that because it will not help you in the future. As a matter of fact, it makes your life even worse. And for those people who have picked up criminal records when they were young, they can tell you now about the effects of it. If I thought there was a law that was unjust, the law itself is unjust, then it's something I would speak to people in Parliament about and have discussions about. If I think that should be changed, or speak to my own colleagues that we can have discussions and debate about it.
So you would wait for permission to disobey it before you just disobey it because you think it's
for permission to disobey?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not having permission to disobey. If a law that was made, and first of all I was not aware of it or something, and I had to deal with it, and I didn't like it. First of all, I got an obligation as a police officer that if there's certain laws set down and I have to do certain things, then
that's
I have to.
Know about them.
However, if there were certain things I was not aware of that was done, that I think somehow it seems to be unjustified because of the negative proportional effect it's going to have on us as a people, and I'm talking as African people, then it's something I would want for it to be addressed. And I would speak to people like black members of parliament or other members of parliament who are supportive of us to discuss and have the laws change. Because there are mechanisms to do that.
What I'm trying to get at is the amount of control that you place on yourself and the amount that you allow externally to influence you of what you will and won't do. Because everybody got their free will.
Yes,
I don't understand how like what might be right to me might be wrong to somebody else.
Of course.
And vice versa.
Sure.
But I can't understand that's like I'm asking you, why should I obey laws? Because the way I live my life.
Okay. That's what you mean.
The way I live my life, I decide what I think is right and wrong in any particular circumstance.
Yeah. Well, one of the things as citizens of this country, and that's why the laws are there, and it says yes for us to obey the law. Now, if you ask me, why should you obey the law if you feel it's not right or whatever? All I'm saying, if you disobey the law, there are going to be consequences. And I'm sitting here also with my hat as a police officer. I cannot say to you, go and disobey the law, because that in itself could bring me in contravention of my own rules and regulations within the police service. All I'm saying, if there's something which you see which you don't like, there are mechanisms in order to address it. In other words, you speak to your member of parliament and say, this is not right. You get other group of people, and I'm talking about within the circumstances or whatever. Now, if you're asking me whether do I understand why people break the law, for instance, like when you had the poll tax riots, when it was brought in and people said nah, and decided to go down Trafalgar Square. I still don't have to see the right for somebody to hurt somebody else. But if you want to protest against it, then people have the right to protest. You know, and say this is wrong, this is not right. So my suggestion to you, and the advice I'm giving to you, that the brothers and sisters out there see laws which are not right, that should be addressed, then form a group, form a coalition. Let's all work together. And that's why groups like the 1990 Trust, together with the website Blink, has put stuff like that. Legally, the brother Toyin have stuff like that to look at that so we can debate it, sit down constructively. And that's why it's so important, Brother Leon, that we bring back in our community meetings where we meet our people on a regular basis, maybe once a week on a Thursday evening between 6 and 10. And all we do, we discuss things that we think is not right. And then we find the members in our own community who can help to address that. So, for instance, you might invite people like myself, people like members of Parliament, black members of Parliament. You've got Diane Abbott, you've got David Lammy, you've got other people there you want to invite. People, but you've got Baroness of Scotland, you've got Baroness Amos, all these various people in these positions. Invite them and says, right, this is something we're not happy with. This is something that affects our community. We need this addressed. Because other communities do it.
Yeah, because like there's a difference between just being a black person and being a representative.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's because I don't really identify with a lot of people whose names you just reeled out. I don't know them.
Yes. Yeah.
Some of them might have heard of.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't ever see them in the things that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I understand.
You know?
I understand.
So
but this is where
what effort, because like I would say they use the enlightened ones, or now I wouldn't even use that. I say use the ones that's connected to the mainstream society. And you're supposed to take, like, if you care, then you're supposed to come to us.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Totally. If I see something which is not right and I see it affect you, I should come and talk to you. But the question I would ask you, if we as in the government, in government institutions, said, okay, we're going to get together and set up community meetings, hire a hall every week where young people, the older generation, we all can come and have a debate as African family about things that affect us and find ways of addressing it. Do you think people would attend?
Yeah, as long as you're honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some effect.
As long as you're fair.
Yeah.
Of course, because Henry Bonsu called something, and he invited the black policeman, invited some white people as well. But enough members of the community turned out. They came there because they're concerned about community issues. Yeah. But at the same time, it's about being honest and being fair. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
If man notice any hypocrisies, because we do see a lot of hypocrisy in government anyway, like we don't attract to it naturally. It's like you have to, I don't know, like you got a lot of problems you usually have to sort out amongst yourself first in terms of demonstrating your integrity, because there's then a lot of trust amongst us.
But the only problem I would say, Brother Leon, is that okay, one of the issues that we're concerned about in the service is to do where people get shot and then decide they're not going to report it to the police and they're going to take revenge themselves. Now that doesn't help our community. All it does, it makes matters get any worse. What we want is that the people who's handling the firearms and doing that is to have them dealt with, rather than we have to spiral and say, no, not telling the police, I'll get a gun and I'll sort it out myself. So what I'm saying, you're right. And one of the things I certainly will discuss, again with my colleagues, about what we can do to work with the other black groups within the other networks, about us come together, because we do have debates within ourselves, but we don't seem to carry out a lot of that into the community. So I'm glad you asked the question. If you said people turn up, provided that we're genuine, then that's something we look to have.
And what's your plan for the future?
When you say plan, in
regards to our community, like how you're going to use your powers or influence?
Well, I've got, like I said, I've only got 3 years to go before I retire. And certainly what I would like to do within that is something, one of the things we discuss is really set up a permanent community meetings. I've spoken to people like Lee Jasper about us getting premises, not premises where you hire and then people said after 2 hours you have to leave, or you know, if you don't, or you can't cook certain food in there and that sort of thing. I want to get away from that. Other communities, and one of the things that bothers me, I look at other communities who, not been in this country long, come well after us and build up their own communities and systems, and they can have their own meetings. We don't seem to have many premises for Africans to meet. And that's why I'm starting with groups like the churches, a lot of the black churches, which is some of the most powerful, longest serving institutions in this country, to say,